Today is a special day at the Nene Valley Railway for the many enthusiasts who've come to see the most famous loco of them all, Flying Scotsman. Well, great to see the old girl again, looking as handsome as ever, and looking very much as she was when I purchased her some 32 years ago. In other words, she's reverted to the British Railways number, 60103. She's reverted to the double chimney, which she only had for a matter of 4 years, and also the German-style smoke deflectors that she only had for about 1 year. When I purchased the locomotive, I had her put back as she was at the time that she had been built, or as near as I could. She went back to her original number of 4472, and the film that you're going to see is all about those early days, and I do hope you'll enjoy it.
What a to-do. What's it all about, anyway? That's quite a story. And it began 40 years ago, when the British Empire exhibition at Wembley saw the start of a proud career which nearly came to an untimely end in 1963, when this fine locomotive was retired from the service of its admiring public and passed into private hands. The story became headline news overnight, and the idea of a mainline express locomotive being bought privately to be run on British railways was one that caught the public imagination in a big way. From King's Cross, on the 14th of January 1963, she hauled an advertised passenger train under British Railways ownership for the last time. This, of course, was the station from which Flying Scotsman had left for the north so many times in the course of her 2 million miles of revenue-earning service. King's Cross top shed was in the grip of the big freeze-up as Flying Scotsman was prepared for her run to Doncaster. But, in spite of the Arctic weather, several important people came to make sure that on such a historic occasion, her toilet was not skimmed. TV, newsreel and press cameras were also there in force, including a number from the USA and Canada. Again and again, Alan Pegler, in his footplate finery, retold the story of how he came to save the lady of his dreams from a fate worse than death, ignominious dismissal to the scrap heap. Flying Scotsman had been groomed here many times before, on such celebrated occasions as the inauguration of the non-stop run of the Flying Scotsman train between London and Edinburgh in 1928, and the high-speed test run to Leeds and back in 1934, when she became the first steam locomotive officially to record a speed of 100 miles per hour. On this occasion, she did the run to Leeds in a few seconds under 2 hours 32 minutes, a time that has never since been better. And now it is a sad goodbye from the faithful friends who had tended her over the years at Top Shed and come to regard her with real affection. Meanwhile, Flying Scotsman is eagerly awaited at King's Cross Station. And so to the platform, to couple on to the 1:15 p.m. Leeds Express, and to be greeted by a crowd of several hundred who had come to see her off. There were carnations for Alan Pegler and the train crew. The station master had his top hat on as he read messages of congratulation with Alan Pegler's wife, Pauline, and the scene was reminiscent of a royal occasion. Now it's time for the final handshakes and good wishes. For the driver, these were anxious moments as the cameramen crowded to the very rails. But Flying Scotsman was away without mishap and dead on time. This snowy landscape near Hadley Wood was one of the few places without sightseers. But most of the way along the route to Peterborough, the only stop before Doncaster, railwaymen and enthusiasts were out to give a wave and a cheer. Up the long climb to Potter's Bar, Flying Scotsman got well into her stride. Indeed, a maximum speed of 90 miles an hour was reached later while many of the passengers were still having lunch. After a quick stop at Peterborough, Flying Scotsman was off again on the 80-mile run to Doncaster. She made up time steadily all the way and was 4 minutes early passing Brentwood. 3 miles north of there, at the Barnby Moor level crossing, a party of family friends had turned out to see the latest Pegler acquisition. This called for a lot of waving by Alan Pegler and his wife from the train and a long blast on the whistle. The sun was setting in a frosty sky as Flying Scotsman approached Doncaster, where she came to a stand exactly 6 minutes early. In those same workshops at Doncaster where Flying Scotsman was built, they carried out the restoration work on the locomotive in a remarkably short time. She was ready for steaming trials now, only 24 days after her arrival from London. Two trial runs with empty coaches were made from Doncaster to New England, near Peterborough and back. The locomotive was uncoupled at Peterborough and after servicing and turning was recoupled to the other end of the train, thus providing an opportunity to obtain these unique views of the locomotive at the intermediate stage before repainting. During the preceding 3 weeks, the alterations carried out included moving the maker's plates from the cab sides to the smoke box, replacement of the single chimney, and removal of the big smoke deflectors. Although the tender still carried the British Railways emblem and the number 60103 still showed on the cab sides, there was now no number at all on the front. Many weeks of freezing weather had begun to affect the state of the track, so there was in fact a speed limit of 60 miles per hour on both these runs. But despite this, enough information could be gained to prove that the mechanical work on the locomotive had been completed satisfactorily. The load in each case was of 12 coaches weighing 377 tons. On Tuesday, the 26th of March, 10 weeks to the day since alterations were commenced in the works, Flying Scotsman emerged from the locomotive paint shop at Doncaster. She had now said goodbye forever to her last links with British Railways, the number 60103 on the cab sides and the comparatively dark locomotive green paint with which everyone was familiar. Grey primer at one stage of the operation gave her a curious appearance. Then the old LNER apple green paint was applied, the locomotive lined out, her original number 4472 painted on in gold leaf, and the letters LNER painted on her newly acquired corridor tender. Resplendent in all her former glory, Flying Scotsman drew many admiring glances from Alan and Pauline Pegler and railway officials. She ran light to Barkston and back a few days later, and early in April hauled a private two-coach special to Finsbury Park, running via Lincoln, March and Cambridge. These journeys were unpublicised, but caused some very surprised faces en route. But the first public run took place on Saturday the 20th of April, when Flying Scotsman hauled the Festiniog railway special from Paddington to Ruaben. Despite rain and half a gale, literally thousands of people turned out to see her. The train itself was fully booked weeks earlier, when it was announced that Flying Scotsman would be hauling it. While the train was still steaming through Buckinghamshire, a crowd of 8,000 enthusiasts was already assembling at Birmingham. After considerable delay at Snow Hill, the special eventually got away, and shortly before reaching Ruaben, Flying Scotsman, for the first time in her 40 years, entered the Principality of Wales. Ruaben station, in spite of the rain, was packed from one end to the other with spectators and photographers. Flying Scotsman's second public run on Saturday the 18th of May was a very long and unusual one, from Lincoln to Southampton and back, hauling a special train organised by the Gainsborough Model Railway Society. A new Pullman car was next to the engine and an observation car on the rear. And as in the case of the Festiniog special, every seat on the train was sold and huge crowds lined the route. This journey provided another first, the first time Flying Scotsman had ever been to the south coast. The round trip of 500 miles was completed with ease, the locomotive steaming freely the whole way. Now that Flying Scotsman's availability for special excursions is widely known, it is confidently expected that this grand old veteran will be seen increasingly on the tracks of Britain, adding new devotees everywhere to the long list of her admirers.
Well, we're travelling now on the Nene Valley Railway, hauled by Flying Scotsman, of course. And Flying Scotsman, incidentally, a great traveller in her own right. Did a great tour for over 3 years to North America, United States and Canada. And after that, a tour to Australia, where, incidentally, she broke her own non-stop record. The record had been 393 miles, London to Edinburgh, and that was superseded by a run in Australia of 424 miles non-stop. This, incidentally, is rather nice. This is a guard's whistle from the Flying Scotsman train, and given me by an old Flying Scotsman guard, and L and NER written on the whistle, which dates it to about 1923. They dropped the and quite early on. It just became LNER. The second film you're going to see is in a very much lighter vein, with commentary by Johnny Morris. And although it's hard to realize it, the only voice you're going to hear during the film is his.
The endearing thing about a railway engine is that it breathes, lives, and sleeps as we do. Here's Flying Scotsman, quietly dreaming of 1,000 glorious rampages from England to Scotland and back again. That's old Edgar Hoyle. He's going to wake her up soon, aren't you, Edgar?
Yes, I am. And them gauges there is the ones that you've got to watch, you see. They tell me all I want to know.
Nice bit of brass, Edgar.
Oh, aye, of course. Brass, oh, it's lovely stuff, brass. You know, it loves being polished, and every time you polish it, it begs you to polish it again. Uh-huh.
And that's the firebox, Edgar?
Aye. Like to have a look inside there. Lovely, isn't it?
Well, it looks nice and healthy.
Healthy? It's lovely. Clean as a new pin.
Yes, well, of course, Edgar, you spend a fair bit of time with her, don't you?
Oh, aye. Well, you can't rush yourself, you know, on a job like this. You've got to take your time and see that everything is just so. It always has been just so, you know. After all, she's over 40 years old.
Over 40, eh?
Oh, yes, she was put on show at the British Empire exhibition at Wembley in 1924 when she was just 2. And since then, she's clocked a couple of million miles. And I took her along a few of them. So, you see, everything has to be just so.
And is everything just so in there, Edgar?
Well, you can see for yourself. There.
So we're all ready to go?
Oh, yes. You can call for that miserable little diesel shunter any time you like.
Right. And the miserable little diesel shunter, only too aware of its own miserable shortcomings and goings, leads Flying Scotsman graciously out to be watered and cold. Before long, fresh hot blood will be pumping through her veins, and she'll be pushing down to the west from Doncaster to Cardiff with a Festiniog Railway Director's Special. March the 18th, on a cold and wintry morning. A thick powdering of snow. The sort of morning where you can see every breath you breathe, and you can hear some of them too. I wonder where we are. Now, I'll have to ask the man in the opposite corner again. Well, he's known exactly where we've been all the way from Doncaster. Excuse me, but have you any idea where we are now?
Oh, yes, Gloucester.
Oh, Gloucester.
Yes, look, here's Gloucester Central coming up. They don't very often see an A3 Pacific down here. More used to seeing Swindon-built Great Westerns.
Yes, I suppose so. I say, just look at the crowd. It's a bit embarrassing, isn't it, to be gawped at so early in the day? Come on, let's push on and make way for that ordinary-looking thing that's rattling up behind. All right, we're moving. Bye-bye. There now, you've got all the station to yourself. There goes Gloucester Cathedral. The lads are piling on the pressure up front there. How long before we get to Cardiff?
Oh, well, it depends on the driver.
How long, driver?
Oh, before you can say Flying Scotsman.
Flying Scotsman. Cardiff. Yes, that was a lovely trip, the Welsh one. And this was a good trip, too. A month later, on April the 18th, the Great Central Rail Tour, Manchester-Marylebone round trip. Those are the Pennines in the distance. And there she is, bustling up the gradient towards Woodhead, flying her foaming white pennant. Looks good, doesn't she?
Looks good. It's a wonderful sight.
Yes, you know, when I was a boy, I spent a lot of time waving to railway engines, but they were always so busy they never bothered to wave back.
Sad for you.
Yeah. I think I'll just try a wave and see what happens. Hello? It worked at last. And here she is, coming into Woodhead. She's a bit puffed, I expect, after that climb.
Yes. You know, haven't you forgotten something?
No, I'm coming to that. Flying Scotsman is the first steam locomotive to travel this line for 10 years, because this is an electric line.
Yes, quite right. But why is she stopping?
To have a photo taken?
No.
Oh, I know. We have to go through the Woodhead Tunnel, and the Woodhead Tunnel is not properly equipped for steam locomotives. Not sufficient ventilation, for one thing, and no sulfur-resistant cement lining to the walls.
Quite right.
And so, with the regulator shut right off, we have to be hauled through by an electric locomotive.
Yes, it's a funny thing, but first of all, British Railways wouldn't hear of Flying Scotsman going through Woodhead Tunnel until someone pointed out that in Belgium, electric engines had been towing steam engines through the tunnels of Brussels for years.
So British Railways relented?
Yes.
There she goes. Still thinking of my youth, I remember we used to watch the trains from a railway bridge, and the thing to do was to see the engine come into the bridge and then belt across to see it come out the other side.
Yes, I remember that. You mean
like this. Yes, that's it. Right under the Pennines from Woodhead to Dunford, and dead on time. Well, he's one of the unofficial timekeepers, and he says we're dead on time. Should be rolling into Sheffield, Victoria, a few minutes short of 10 o'clock. Yes, and here we are. Not stopping?
Well, only for a second.
There's a nice straight stretch beyond Sheffield, isn't there?
Yeah.
So we should be able to put on a bit of a spurt. So get your stopwatches ready, chaps. Here we go.
You know, the only trouble about going fast like this is it's very difficult to take a cine film.
Oh, all right then. We'll have to slow down for you a bit, I expect. Now, is that better?
Yes, much better. Now, I'll just get one from this side and then one from that side.
Yes, that's a nice shot. Bit long though, isn't it?
I like long shots.
Why don't you try the other side?
Oh, all right. How's that?
It's quite nice.
You getting a bit restless?
Well, yes, I've got an idea it's tea time or something.
Oh, yes. Well, it's hardly worth having tea. Look, here we are at Marylebone.
I wonder which line she's going to choose out of all that lot. Now, I would say she's coming to the right.
No, I would say to the left.
No. She's definitely coming to the... Oh, but she knows, doesn't she? She slinks along with all the confidence in the world. Marylebone, the end of the road. And now all we've got to do is turn round and go back again. But first of all, Mr. Pegler, a few words, if you don't mind. You see, we're from the BBC, and actually, we would like you to say something, actually, if you don't mind. It'd be awfully kind of you if you would. Yes, now, if you could just stand over there, Mr. Pegler. Mr. Pegler, where are you? Oh, there you are, yes. Oh, good. Now, look, if you could just say something, well, you know, something, I mean... anything. I mean, don't mind the man holding that homemade bomb there. It's just to frighten you, really. Yes, that's fine. Yes, thank you so much, yes.
Well, it's frightened Flying Scotsman away.
She's going.
Yes, but only to turn round.
That's right. But turn her around slowly. Don't want to make her dizzy.
No, quite right. You know, you can't turn engines round like you used to.
Can't you?
No. Turntables are dying out.
Oh, because these diesel things can be driven from either end. They don't need to be turned round.
Exactly.
Disgusting. You know, all the fun is going out of life. I mean, this is one of the railway's best bits of theatre.
Exactly.
It's better than the revolving stage at the London Palladium.
Exactly.
Right. And that's it. There she goes, just easing her elbows for the run back up north. But we won't be ready for a bit. We have to coal up. So, you'd better keep on talking, Mr. Pegler. Say something. That's it. This coaling is a slow job nowadays. The automatic coalers have been scrapped, and now every lump is hand-picked.
Right then, while they're doing that, I'll just get along and all round. And while he's doing that, I'll just declink of the fire. And while he's doing that, I'll just elbow grease the nameplate. And now we're ready to move off again. Oh dear, it's starting to drizzle. Now, hang around, chaps. There's going to be a teeny-weeny crash in a second. Oop. That's it. Get a picture of that special corridor tender. There weren't many of them built. And now, Flying Scotsman, it's all yours again. Let's know when you're ready, will you? And there she goes, off to Penistone. Now, what's this? You remember, the border bridge. Oh, yes, the border bridge. This was a few weeks later when Flying Scotsman went up to Scotland. That's it. Now, this is the first time she's been to Scotland for 25 years. Border bridge coming up. She's hauling the Master Cutler Pullman. Master Cutler plies between Sheffield and London on weekdays, but she's free on Saturdays to do these sort of trips, and that's what we're doing now. But today, she's specially renamed Pegler's Pullman. Well, it makes a nice change, doesn't it? And there's the actual border. Yes, look out, she's coming. Where is she? Look at her, tumbling into Scotland, to the homely hills that knew her so well. She'll haunt them forever, a distant, smoky ghost. Flying Scotsman is having her portrait painted by Terence Cuneo. There she is on the fourth bridge. Now, keep still. This is just a sketch for the oil painting, and Terence Cuneo works from that back in his studio. Well, we must get all the details, right? It needs an accurate eye, and a steady hand, and a strength of purpose to recreate Flying Scotsman on canvas. Looks terrific, doesn't she? She rather fancied herself on the fourth bridge, because about 1 week later, Flying Scotsman made her main run in Scotland. Rather expensive, a shilling for a souvenir ticket. Go on, get away with you.
Come on, we're ready to get cracking. Today, we're taking the Transport Society of Queen's College St Andrews University on tour. I wonder if anyone will wave if I try it this time. Oh-ho! She's dying to get on that fourth bridge again. And no wonder. Look at her, just as she was in the oil painting. Now, steady, old girl. There's a speed limit of 40 miles an hour on the bridge. Look at it. 2 miles of iron spiderwork. And then down the gradient past Loch Leven. Nothing can catch us today. And here we are at Aberdeen. Well, it can't be flagged there. There are too many people about. It's very difficult, isn't it, to find the right sort of things to say just before a railway train leaves.
Well, goodbye. Don't forget to write.
Have a good journey, and have you seen young Dougal? Where's young Dougal? Have you seen him? There he is, gawping at one of the old A4 streamliners.
Yes, well, I suppose she'll be off any minute now. Yes, just a few more seconds to go.
Right away. Quick, one more snapshot. Goodbye. And now we run through a fine bit of countryside, don't we?
Oh, yes. It's superb.
Yes. Never very far from the sea. A fine spring evening, and the sun dropping slowly in the sky. And we come to Dundee. You know, it's remarkable the way everybody turns out to see a steam engine, isn't it?
No, it isn't. Remember what you said a little while ago?
What, that the endearing thing about a steam engine was that it has many human characteristics? It breathes and lives and moves like a strong emotional animal?
Yeah,
That's why we are fond of them, do you think?
exactly. Could you ever be fond of a diesel engine?
Well, no.
Exactly.
That's why people come to see steam engines. They're big-hearted, living things. Well, goodbye, Dundee. And now, this is something we've all been waiting for. The Tay Bridge. Flying Scotsman has never crossed this bridge. Does it feel all right? Yes, it feels fine. The old Tay Bridge crumbled and fell one stormy night in 1879, just as a train was crossing. But everything's calm and safe tonight. Here she comes, crossing into Fife. Now then, you boys, you're going to try and race her, aren't you? All right, then. On your marks. Get set. Go! No, it's no good. Flying Scotsman is set for home. Over the fourth bridge again, and home to Doncaster, where that miserable little diesel leads her gently back to sleep. But not for long. Well, it's summertime, and the wind is warm, and the clouds are high, and away goes Flying Scotsman, hammering hard down the track. Look at that, 80 miles an hour and still blowing steam. And here she is, knocking 92 miles an hour. Just look at her, pumping out her heart and soul. Just look at her, kicking up the white dust from her clattering iron heels. This speed run north of Hitchin was one of the last recorded in Flying Scotsman's diary for 1964. Another year to remember. A tremendous year for Flying Scotsman's new owner, who has saved for us something that we've all loved since childhood. A living, breathing steam engine.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed those first two films of the series. There'll be more to come, including Flying Scotsman's visit to North America in the late 1960s. So, goodbye for now.